Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. Okay, welcome to the latest episode of Sausage on a Fork, and I am absolutely delighted to say that I have been joined for this episode by none other than Bradley Sheppard, who played Hollo Holloway. Bradley, welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
Hi, Neil. Yeah, thanks. Quite surprised that I'm here doing this myself, to be perfectly honest with you. I checked you out with Ercan though.
Right, okay.
So that's why I'm on there. Yeah, and I thought I'd come on because I owed it to some people that might be out there that are interested.
Oh, brilliant. Honestly, I get so many requests. When are you getting Hollow on? When are you getting Hollow on? So I'm absolutely made up, as we say up here, that you're
Well,
coming
I'm
on.
flattered and I'm taken back at the same time. Like I said to you just before we was like recording. I'm quite surprised that there's still an interest, but I can understand it in a way because of
Yeah,
the mammoth thing that Grange Hill actually was and what it brought to the forefront of people's living rooms. Phil went
yeah,
an amazing job bringing issues up into the living room, didn't he?
yeah, definitely.
New subjects and controversial at times. So
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that there's an interest in it. Yeah, but in me specifically, yeah, that's flattering.
Brilliant. Oh, well, no, honestly, I'm so pleased that you've come on. So what we'll do, Bradley, is we'll start this episode the way we start every episode. And if you can tell us how you first got into acting.
I always say to people that my mum asked me when I was 5 if I wanted to be the next Michael Caine, and I
Right,
said yes.
right.
So she put my name down on Anna Shear's Children's Theatre,
Uh-huh.
and it went from there really. She was back then, I think she was a teacher, like a school in Islington around the corner, Ecclesbourne Road. She was teaching after hours, and then she set up a club in Barnesbury,
Uh-huh.
and she went from strength to strength, as you know, Anna Shear.
Yeah.
So yeah, just went there on I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night. Think back then it was only a couple of quid just to go in. I think my mum really wanted me to have a bit more confidence,
Uh-huh.
maybe to come out and show a bit. Like
Yeah.
so, as a mum, she thought, "Oh no, I'll take him to acting classes or something." So yeah, no, I did that. But yeah, that's what I say to people. Whether that happened or not, I don't know. You might
Right.
ask
Okay.
about the history, and I might have made it up myself. It might be my truth, but it might
Right.
be anyone else. It's just I make these memories up. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And so, did you get sort of much acting work before Grange Hill from that?
Yes, in short,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I've got a distinct memory of walking into these daunting big double doors and there being a vestibule, like waiting area reception, and
Uh-huh.
like just seeing this theatre. I think I was 7,
Uh-huh.
and I remember it being very daunting. In fact, I think I remember sitting down in a chair outside and like a child crying my eyes out so much. I was like, I couldn't breathe. It was like,
Right. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
that taken back by going in there. So you could probably see why my mum wanted me to have a little bit more confidence
Yeah.
to one of these acting classes, because just walking in there, it seemed so daunting and terrifying. And there was an audition going on at the time,
Right.
and I could see the kids in there all lined up and doing a little bit of improv and bit of mime movement and dance. And I could see the director in there, and he was talking to all the kids individually and that. And there was people sitting up in these chairs on like banks of chairs, like up like a theatre,
Uh-huh.
little
Yeah.
theatre. I remember like the little reception on the left and to the right hand side, there was a music booth, and they had lighting and they had a stage at the back. So for me, at 7 years of age, this must have been like, wow.
Yeah.
So I was a bit terrified, to be honest, hence why I'm crying so much and can't breathe. But anyway, this audition's going on, and this is how I remember it, rightly or wrongly, it's my truth.
Yeah.
Um, the director at the time that was coming out spotted me
Yeah.
in there in that state,
Right.
went back to Anna and said, I'll have him.
Wow.
And that's how I remember it. But I don't even remember doing a class.
Right.
I remember sitting there, and I just must have looked just like what he was after.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it went from there. Yeah. I was very, very fortunate. And I sort of remember now, if I'm right, there was a few of them from Anna's done, you
Uh-huh.
know, really well. Um, that were in my classes. I won't maybe mention names and say who they were, but you know, very famous EastEnders, a couple of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. This guy said I'll have him, and from there on, it just went from one audition to another, and people just come in and kind of ask me. So I think I did a few bits and pieces. It's probably on my IMDb. You got one of them, you know, like
Yeah.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
IMDb's. I
Yeah.
think there's a few things on there prior to Grange Hill. So
Yeah.
the only way that I would be able to tell you from memory would be to check that out
Yeah.
and have a look.
So people that listen to this will know that I use IMDb for pretty much 99.9% of my research to find out what other things people have been in, certainly on screen. Theatre's a completely different ballgame. But there was a film called The War Begins,
Oh, blimey. Yeah,
right?
Brian
And,
Dunnigan.
and that is on YouTube.
No way.
It's YouTube or Daily Motion or something. I watched it the other day. Genuinely,
Seriously, Neil.
genuinely, I watched it the other day.
Do you know what? Well, I found a DVD, didn't I, about 2 weeks ago. I think it's my boys bought it over in a box, and I was going through it, and Joe had a look, and I pulled out this CD. I thought it was a music CD. No one
Yeah.
keeps DVDs or CDs.
No, yeah,
The unbreakable discs that break. You know.
yeah,
Anyway, I found it. It was called The War Begins, and we started to watch the beginning of it, didn't we? And yeah, I can't believe that that's out there on it. So, oh yeah, Brian Dunnigan, Scottish fella, very
uh-huh.
young. If I remember rightly. I think I was I was his lead character in
Yeah.
that
You were, yeah, you were.
all the
You're
way, all the way
top
through it.
top villain.
Yeah.
You're in every scene. Honestly, yeah.
You know what? That got its own private showing in a
Wow.
big cinema, right? And I remember at the end of it, I had to stand up and this whole auditorium who just watched this film. I think it's only about 40 minutes long and it's a short
Yeah,
film.
yeah, it's a short. Yeah,
Black and white movie, I think.
yeah.
So Brian Dunnigan, yeah, everyone was clapping. I remember there being carpets and balustrades. I remember seeing this huge picture of me up there.
Wow.
And yeah, as a child, I remember that now. That
Yeah.
is bad. I remember he come around my house after and bought me Star Wars figures.
Wow.
Because I was massive fan of Star Wars because
Yeah.
I was a kid. And I was well chuffed with that. Brian Dunnigan. Yeah, I bumped into, I went, I got in touch with him I think about 5, 6 years ago.
Uh-huh.
You know what? He went on to do really well. That film won him a BAFTA.
Wow.
That film won Brian Dunnigan a BAFTA, and it made him. He made
Yeah.
a music video as well because it's on my disc. I think he went on to be the director or the head of the college for the London Royal Film College or something like
All
that.
right. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and he worked there for many, many years. Yeah, he invited me to his 60th birthday, but unfortunately I couldn't make it.
All right. Now, the weird thing about that is just what a little strange coincidence connected with Grange Hill is that round about the same time, John Holmes, who obviously played Gonch, made Friend or Foe, which is another Second World War film where
No way.
where they encounter a German a German character. Now, in the film you were in, obviously he was German who already lived in England, but in the other one, he's actually a German soldier that's crash landed in England. But
That is mad.
just a mad little coincidence there, like
John must have been a bit older than me. I'm not too sure how much older than me.
right.
I've seen him at a reunion, something that
Uh-huh.
Erkan organised
Oh
actually.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I went to Leicester Square and met up with a few of
Uh-huh.
them many moons ago. Really good calls. Erkan's
Yeah.
good. That's the only reason I went because it was for him. He was saying
Yeah, no, I've seen pictures, and I think that's probably the biggest sort of Grange Hill reunion that there's been since. You know what I mean? There's been others, but I think that's possibly at the most cast there. That one
I
that you
couldn't
were at.
believe how many people would, that he'd managed to pull back together and to see him all again.
Yeah,
Yeah, it took me back a little bit
because
doing that. I'm bumping
there's
into a fan in there in that club who can't upstairs. It's Leicester Square
yeah,
and it's a proper nightclub. I remember I was wearing this really Larry Loud pink shirt and a tie on. I think there's even a picture of me now.
Yeah, there is.
Wearing it at the time. That was that night, and I think it looked the same color. My cheeks looked the same color. Yeah, I looked really flushed. But I remember meeting like a fan there, and he's wearing a jumper in a nightclub, and I met him in the foyer, and he pulled his jumper up, and he had a picture of me on his t-shirt.
Wow.
With him, and he said how much of a big fan he was, and I shook his hand, and we had a little chat and that because it was a chance for us
Yeah.
to mingle with fans,
Yeah.
in a nightclub and have a dance and all that,
Yeah.
which we did, and yeah, I talked to him again because he's a really good guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we'll talk about Grange Hill, and we'll move on to Grange Hill. And so
I want to talk about John Holmes' movie now. The war and his. I've got to now look that up, and see about
yeah, it's Friend or Foe. It's called.
Friend or Foe. Yeah, I was
It's
The War Begins. He was Friend or Foe. Same. Was it really the same year as well? Was it really
it's round about the same time. It's pre-Grange Hill when he done it. Yeah.
Second World War movies? Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The guy in Marvel, the Rag and Bone Man, was Austrian, by the way.
Right. All right. Okay. right. Okay. So, how did your part in Grange Hill come about then?
I must have just got an audition from Anna's,
Right.
and I think if I remember rightly, there were several. Yeah, completely different to her kind of story.
Yeah.
Mine was yeah, because I was obviously going to a club, he never.
Yeah.
And so it must have just been an organised thing. People must have just put it in, and of course, me being a little golden boy at Anna's, I suppose at the time,
Yeah.
Button Socks, must have put me forward.
Right.
It must have come through Anna. So
Yeah.
and that business there,
Yeah.
and I must have gone. I can remember. I can remember being in rooms. I can remember sitting down with other people in chairs. I remember having scripts out. And I remember having to read from them there and then.
Yeah.
Maybe we were doing some rehearsals as well like that, but so it might be a bit mixed up. But I remember there being several sort of auditions, but I can't remember if I went one,
Right.
two, three. I think there was several leading into it. I think there was
Uh-huh.
several. Got to remember how young I was.
Yeah.
So I think I must have been one of the youngest members of the cast.
Right.
I must have been. Like, I must have gone with the years that I was in.
Uh-huh.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I swear I had the auditions when I was 10.
Right. Oh wow. Right. Yeah. That's probably right because it went on air in '85, your first series, so you would have been filming in '84. So
Right.
then there's every chance that your auditions were '83. Do you know what I mean? There's every chance. Like,
Yeah, for some reason, I always think it's going to be a little bit earlier. I know that I went with the years. I don't think I was even out of primary school.
right? Wow.
I think I was in the shift over period of that summer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd have been leaving Charles Lamb in Islington when I think I was 9 or 10. And then you have that break, and then you go
Yeah.
to secondary school, what we
Yeah.
call secondary school. Yeah, which would have been my first year.
Right.
I think it was from primary school. I think I might have started the process
Uh-huh.
from primary school of getting into Grange Hill.
Wow.
And it must have been quite early because, as I say, I think I was one of the youngest members of the cast,
Yeah.
thereabouts. And I'm pretty sure I naturally went with the years that I was actually in Grange Hill.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it matched what I would have been doing
Yeah.
in real life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Because usually, like a lot of the cast were older, weren't they, than what they were playing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I
Okay.
suppose they had maturity about them. They had a few more sort of years experience.
Yeah.
They'd been sort of like to the educated system acting schools.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
like Talia Contis and stuff like that. Sylvia Young. I
Yeah.
think that's a couple that I remember. But
Yeah.
mine was like a night class, if you
I
like
get you. Yeah.
an after school club, really.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
went to Anna's, and I don't think I could have attended an acting
No.
school.
right. Okay. Okay. So, were you already a fan of Grange Hill?
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah,
So what?
absolutely.
So what was it like going then from being a fan, seeing these people on telly, to all of a sudden you're in the same room as them?
One of the strangest things that could ever happen. you know, and also for the people around me, you
Right.
know. Yes, it's a bit, yeah, I don't know. It's very, very strange because I think I remember Todd Carty, you know, watching him and Gripper, Stepson,
Yeah.
and you know, and God bless him, God rest his soul, Benny,
Yeah.
Terry, um, yeah, because he's from the same manor. Funny enough,
Right.
Terry's brother, George, used to babysit my younger brother.
Wow. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that he was looking after him once, and my brother fell into an area or something. No, but later on, after I know Todd's name, Mark. I remember seeing him.
Yeah.
Uh, what was he doing? He was doing something. Oh, he came back to the school as a teacher in a play that we did in Hornchurch.
All right. Were you in that way? You're in the Grange Hill the
Yeah,
musical?
me and John Holmes got asked if we would go and do a play
Yeah.
in Hornchurch, and I remember going there, and yeah, Todd Carty comes back to the school as a teacher.
Right.
Yeah, and I must say, some of these people are the nicest people that you're ever going to meet.
Yeah.
You know, really, really decent, good human beings. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, very, very fond memory of him. But he was like he was the one I'd looked up to. He was the one that I was
Yeah.
running from school. I'd be rushing home to watch it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, it'd be him in it. So I must have been coming home from primary school watching
Yeah.
you on the telly, and he would have been in it. And then the next thing you know, you're in it as well.
Yeah.
And like they're going now because we're much younger generation, right?
Yeah.
So I had Zamo's lot above me,
Uh-huh.
Mickey Rowland's character and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember Zamo had a girlfriend, Jackie, and then
Yeah.
Jackie was going to school, Robbie, who was younger,
Yeah.
Salford, yeah. Yeah, that was the year I was in with him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, but they were that little bit older. So yeah, I would have been watching Todd in there as Tucker.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So yeah, yeah, I did. I was a fan, and I do remember it. Yeah, I do. I remember coming home, and then you are, and that is very, very strange because the school that I went to was uniformed.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't go very often because
Right.
the the way the script was written, I was in
Yeah.
a lot of it with John.
Yeah.
Um, so we was out the house very early doors, getting on a coach with, you know, the likes of some really lovely ladies, you know, that
Uh-huh.
looked after us on in June. And these ladies, take me out of them, that they really did, you know, look after us. You
Yeah.
know, we had to go up and get on a coach and go up to different studios. It started off actually in White City. I went to
Right.
White
Yeah.
City. That's where for the very first time I met Erkan.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, in White City, it was absolute godsend to meet him, and I've thanked him since. And I've seen on his interview, he's mentioned talking to me last
Yeah.
November. Says, yeah, but he's
Yeah.
right, you know, and thank God that he was there because very daunting as a
Yeah.
well walking into the likes of a canteen where you've got Bruce Forsyth, Wayne Sleep, the two
Yeah.
sitting there having breakfast and coming out the gents or whatever. Do you know
Yeah.
what? Wow. But I mean, you find your feet eventually. But I must say a thank you to him because he kind of like nestled me in and took me in underneath his wing, you know,
Yeah.
Can. Because I'd have been a little bit of a lost sheep, I think, at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Time. So yeah, I remember that vividly. I remember
Yeah.
that very well, being put at rest almost immediately.
Yeah.
Don't worry about. I must have been a bunny rabbit in the
Yeah, I
headlights.
mean, everyone says the same about it, and everyone says how good he was at welcoming people in it. Everyone says exactly the same.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
So, all right. So we'll go through some of the stuff that Hollo got up to on Grange Hill. And your first year there'd been a merger with there was three schools, Grange Hill, Brookdale, and Rodney Bennett, but that didn't really affect the first years because they were all going to the one school anyway. But your first scene, Hollow's riding a BMX and gets stopped by Trevor Cleaver.
Yes. Yeah. If you want
Starts
to
go-
get the great bunny up backwards out the way, you
yeah, yeah,
might be able to get to the school bike sheds.
yeah.
And it's
And
not my bike, it's my brother's bike.
that's the one. And Cleaver's going on and talking about BMXs, and Hollow's got no clue because, as you've just said, it gets him from A to B. It's his brother's bike. It's not his bike. And then Hollo just, as I say, he just wants to use it to get from A to B, get to school and back. And then he rides away from Cleaver and crashes into Gonch. And Mr. Smart runs over, and everyone thought he was concussed, but he was just listening to his Walkman.
New thing, wasn't it? New rage. Walkman was the new rage, wasn't it?
It was. It was. And Mr. Smart, he gets Gonch in bothered and says he has to write him an essay. So Gonch wasn't happy with Hollo. So they arranged a fight. I don't know if you remember that. Like Hollo at the start wasn't the type to back down from anyone. Like, even though everyone seemed to be a clear 2 foot taller than him, to be honest. Like, I mean, that's like me when I was at school. All my mates were almost taller than me as well. Like, but they arranged this fight, and at the end of the day, Gonch goes to the bike sheds for the fight, but he sees some lads trying to nick Hollo's bike, and he goes over and he stops them, and Hollo says, "Well, it'd be pretty stupid if we had a fight now that you've done that." And that's one of the greatest ever partnerships in Grange Hill history was born there and then with Gonch.
I think it all boils down to me doing my own stunts like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that's it.
Do you know what? I'm so proud. It seems silly now, but I was so proud of myself back then. That's so stupid. But I remember practicing that because as he stops me, puts his hand on the handlebars, and I remember looking at him, and then I've got to tell him, if you wouldn't mind doing a straight bunny hop backwards, out cycle off. But then they was telling me that I had to look behind me. So I wasn't looking where I was going. So I had to look at them. And then all of a sudden I turned back. He's in front of me. He's oblivious because he's got this Walkman on.
Yeah.
But I do this skid. I throw the back wheel round on the floor like to take his legs out.
Yeah.
Up on the deck. And I remember being so pleased with my
brilliant.
But I was able to do that. That's a little bit of an inward secret I didn't really know I had.
Yeah.
Not Tom Cruise, is it? Really? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Hey, it's better. It's better than Tom Cruise.
I have laughed and joked about that with people, in a battle cruiser now and again, and said, "Yeah, I've done all that."
Brilliant. And Gonch said Hollo was now his sidekick because Gonch was numero uno, and they were always up to some money making schemes, weren't they? The pair of them, like, it was always Gonch's idea. And the first one, I don't know if you remember that first series. You were always in a skip. You were always like getting rubbish out of a skip.
You know what? Now you're saying this, I remember being in that skip. I remember that like some of the rubbish we was going through. I swear to God, I don't know why. I remember the caretaker that had. Wasn't there a doll involved or something? A blow up.
Yeah, so there was a mannequin.
A mannequin.
A mannequin, yeah.
Oh, we was up to all sorts. I think there was selling toast in the playground. We did that at lunchtime.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one where we did he was doing VHS video?
Yeah, there was yeah.
He was taping from tape to tape in the scrapes and stuff, and we were selling them or renting them out.
Well, like, it was honestly the first series, you were just in this skip finding all sorts. And the first one, the very, very first one they did, we were getting folders out of a skip just to try and it was just like bananas. And then they were getting empty bottles to get the deposits back, because everyone tried to do that in the time, didn't they? And there was a bit where one of the girls was into like reading palms. So Callie Donington, Simone Hyams, into reading palms, and Hollo just thought it was a load of rubbish. So Jane gave it to Callie. She gave it to Hollo to give to Callie and Hollo said he'd do it in exchange for her buying a folder from him. Like, it was just bananas. Some of the things that they got into, like, and then people were asking them where they got their stuff from, because they didn't want them to know that it came from a skip. But some of the girls found out, and so it's just nuts. Hollo then struck a deal with Callie. If she kept quiet about the skip, then he would tell her who's the photocopied palm belonged to. Like, just little kids just doing stupid things like that. But there was in that first series, there was a bit, we showed a very different side to Hollo, because I don't know if you remember this, there was a school scheme called Bridge Building, where they went to do community work for an old man in the community. Yeah, yeah. Oh, and Hollo was really into it.
He was helping him out.
Mr. Light, his name was.
Was there a garden rake involved?
Yeah, so they walked past his back garden and they asked if he could help. And Mr. Light told him to go or he'd call the police.
Yeah, I have got I've got images. I see things in film footage in my mind. I'm a very visual person.
Yeah.
So as you're sort of mentioning that to me, I can almost visualize him and see. I'm sure we had a cup of tea with him. We was around there helping him in the back garden. There was a gate, there was a wall there. Sure that we had a rake. Was we doing gardening or something?
There was times they were doing gardening, they were doing all sorts of. Gonch left the first time because he wasn't into it, but Hollo was really keen on it, and he ended up staying around his house till like 7 o'clock, and he got a lead soldier. Mr. Light gave him a lead soldier, and then there was another scheme again after that where they got a load of appointment cards, dental appointment cards, which there was always, like when I think back to high school, there was always someone who did stuff like that. Like if they got like photocopied pass out forms or something, there was always someone trying something like that. But the only trouble was Gonch and Hollo both handed in appointment cards to the same teacher and for the same time. But for some reason, she still let them go. But then Trevor Cleaver pointed out that they wouldn't be able to sell them because all the kids thought that double French was the worst lesson of the week, and they'd all be trying to get their dental appointments for that time. I mean, like you've mentioned Mr. Griffiths, the caretaker.
That's right, yeah, Mr. Griffiths.
Yeah, and double French was with Mr. Bronson. But can I ask, what was the relationship like between the kids and the adults?
Well, from him and Baxter that I remember.
Yeah.
So Bronson, I remember being very kind towards me, really.
Right.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, you could turn your nose up as an actor and think, oh, why haven't we done this and why haven't we done that?
Yeah.
And in fact, I think because mainly I might have been so terrified of getting things wrong or not getting it right that I was renowned for getting first takes.
Right.
I must have been so frightened wrong. So there must have been some sort of air, like this aura of professionalism that I've been learning like from them.
Yeah.
From a very young age in that game. Because it is a laugh and it is a joke and it is fun, but this is a serious business. You know, it is a serious business. It's work. Bread and butter for people.
Yeah.
And so I only realised now later on in life, looking back at that, I've got more feelings of it than I have memories of it.
I get you. Yeah.
But I don't remember feeling, like I was going to be chastised badly in any shape or form, like they were going to come down on me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
But I do remember them. There was an air of like, well, these are kids. And I've said before, I was one of the youngest members of the cast. I went with the years. So, these are teachers. They're adults. They're grown men and women. But it's their job to be actors. And actresses.
Yeah.
They want to get the job done. So there's an air of professionalism going on, that maybe overlooked me slightly, if you like, in a way. But I know that I remember the floor runners. I remember having to keep quiet off set. I remember, the etiquette, and I remember, that you didn't corpse. You tried very hard not to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tried not to balls the scene up or whatever.
Yeah. All right.
They were all cool as far as I can remember. I've got no bad feeling or bad memory of any of the adults that are around me. I'll be honest with that.
I mean,
only good.
Everyone says pretty much the same thing, and especially about Michael Sheard, who played Mr. Bronson. And I don't know if you know, but there was a behind the scenes program made about Grange Hill. I think it was after your time, but he was still in it, and it's the weirdest thing that he's in makeup, Michael Sheard, and he's there without his wig on, and he's just sat. But then he puts the wig on, and you can actually see him change from Michael Sheard into Mr. Bronson. Like his whole body changes and everything. It's just...
You know what? It's an absolute privilege to have worked with that man, because like I did not know like you know, what his
Yeah.
level of work was. I didn't know as a kid.
Yeah.
I swear I see him as Hitler in Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I think he was in the Star Wars movie. I think Urkan mentions that,
Yeah.
didn't
He's in the
he?
Admiral Ozzel. He was in Empire. Yeah.
You know what? That I think that fan that I told you about earlier
Yeah.
bumped into it in Leicester Square Club.
Uh-huh.
He told me what was the name of the actor, Mr. Bronson, you say?
Michael Sheard.
Michael Shea- did he and you say did he write a book? Did he write an
He
autobiography?
has, yeah. He's written an autobiography.
Right. So the one of these fans, that guy, I think his name was David, he said to me he's read that. And
Right.
he says that Michael Sheen is talking about a child in Grange Hill that he's surprised that he must have a photographic memory or something, or his professionalism, because he comes into a scene, doesn't know the script, doesn't know what's going on. They give him a script, looks at the script, comes in, does a scene in one take.
Wow.
This guy that I met was telling me this,
Yeah. Wow.
informing me of it, that he believed that he was talking about me.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh wow, well, what a compliment that is.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
How amazing would that be if that was true?
Yeah.
You know,
Brilliant.
I do remember I do remember working with him, and I remember his professionalism, but I remember his care and his yeah, amazing guy. Yeah,
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. And one of the other schemes you've already mentioned was the video club. So they started off having a video club at Hollo's house at lunchtimes because Vince could get all the videos from his dad's shop, but it didn't work properly. As most of their schemes didn't work properly because they couldn't watch all of a film in the lunch hour. So, and Vince couldn't keep all the videos.
I remember we were watching. I remember a scene like that being in someone's house at
Yeah,
lunch,
yeah, it was Hollo's house. Yeah,
or someone, yeah, sitting around, saying about my mum coming home, we're all sitting around the VHS and watching this movie.
yeah,
Like we were doing at the time, so I do remember that. I've got keen, fond memories of Vince as well. What's his name? George.
Steve George.
George, yeah, that's it.
Steve George. Yeah,
But we did some. I did some talking about Mr. Griffiths. You just jogged the memory
yeah,
there. Underneath the stairs,
yeah, yeah,
there was a cubbyhole.
yeah. That was
Uh,
in your last. That was in your
cubbyhole,
last
things
series.
like
Yeah,
that. I swear we was getting up to all sorts of mischief in there. I remember doing scenes with Vince, you know, Steve George,
yeah,
in there. Fond memories of working with him.
yeah.
Um, and was there a ghost?
Yeah, so do you know what, Brad? We'll come on to that bit in a bit because there's quite a bit I want to talk to you about that one.
All right, okay.
Um, so yeah, so the video club it wasn't working. So that was when they came up with the pirate video schemes, and they were,
Yeah, yeah,
they
brilliant.
started using because every school had a big multimedia department, didn't they? In in the mid 80s, like you know, uh, video, and they were recording them, and they started their own pirate video empire, basically there. And there was a bit where the lads were helping Mr. Light at his house, part of this community scheme, and the outside of his wall was broken, so they nicked a bag of plaster from the school because the toilets were getting refurbished. So Wallow and Gonch went and they nicked a bag of plaster, but when they got there, he said it was no good. He needed mortar, so they were trying to get it back to the school from Mr. Light, and they were carrying it back to school when the builders actually saw them.
Yes, I remember them builders.
Yeah, yeah, because one of them was I can never remember his name, but he was from play school or something like that. He was from like another kids.
I'm sure he was well known.
Yeah, he was.
I've got this big tall silver ladder. Was I actually up the ladder at the time when we were walking around with this bag of plaster and he's come
Yeah,
down the ladder after us?
and the builders saw them, but they actually went to Mr. Light's house and they went to help them in exchange for some videos from Hollow and Gunch.
Yeah,
Little bit
so
of
we
it.
obviously had to explain to him
Yeah,
what we're doing with
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And then we explained it. He's got an art of gold and he's gone around there to help the fella out as well.
yeah, yeah.
Brilliant, isn't it?
And then Hollow and Gunch back in the skip that we've talked about, and this is where they find the body. They thought it was a body at first, but it was actually a plastic dummy, and they christened him Henry. And for some reason, they kept taking him to school and doing all sorts of stuff, and they were crossing the road and threw it. They threw it in front of Mr. Bronson's car. No, another car, but Mr. Bronson appeared. And all the first year lads were put on detention. And then Hollow and Guns realised that the coat that Henry was wearing had Goncha's name in it. So they had to go and get it from Mr. Smart's office, and they got caught by Mr. Bronson trying to put Henry in Goncha's locker, but managed to convince him that it was just Jumble. Jumble, pair of legs sticking out of it, but no, sir, it's just Jumble. And then Mr. Baxter eventually found Henry the dummy and gave it to the art department. And in the end, Gonch actually came clean with Mr. Smart about the dummy, but also told him that he'd done it all on his own, and Hollo never got in any trouble.
Right.
Can I ask you, though, obviously, because you were on screen with John Holmes a lot as Gonch, and you had really, really good chemistry with him. Did you get on with him off camera?
I think that the age difference was too much.
Right, okay.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was a difference in the age. I was probably a little immature. I was probably just off doing other things or knocking about. So when we worked together, we rehearsed together, and then we did our scene together. I don't remember that anyway. I don't recall sort of like being like, I think we might have just been that little too far apart, you know, in years, if you like. If you're like 2 years apart at that age, it does make quite a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
You know, nothing bad on him whatsoever. It's just that's how it is, you know. So I was probably off doing other bits and pieces or seeing that, you know, trying to make my way with other people, because it's a strange environment for me, in fact, because being that young.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there were that many. I can't really remember how many people there were really my age. As I say, I remember being like the youngest member of the cast and the team there at one point. So that was a little bit tricky for me, because like, even though I had to grow up pretty quickly and I was in an adult environment, and that changes you, and it gives you great experience for life in some ways, like in that sort of professional environment. But there was still a difference between my age and their age. You know?
I get you. Yeah.
So I can't say that I was really sort of like knocking about having a laugh at him like you would when you're 11, you know, or 12, because, you know, maybe when I was 12 or 13, they were like 15,
Right,
16,
I get you.
you know.
Yeah.
So even if there's a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years in it, at that age, it is a big difference.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I get you.
And what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, I know from being at school, kids 2 years older than you didn't want to know you. Do you know what I mean? They didn't, you know what I mean? It's hard, isn't it? Like, especially most of them, because 2 years older in our school, we're all in the same year as my sister, and she's probably told them not to come anywhere near me because I was a dickhead, or I don't know, but you know. But anyway, okay. So I don't know if you remember this, when there was things getting nicked throughout the school. So Gonch and Hollo decided to bug the staff room to see if the teachers knew anything about it, using Gonch's Walkman.
This is news. This is news to me. This one.
And eventually they found out that it was Gripper Stepson had been coming back in and nicking stuff.
Right, okay. I remember doing a Christmas episode with him.
Yeah, so I'll go on to that, because you feature quite heavily in the Christmas episode, Gonch and Hollo.
I talk chasing a donkey around the spot.
So it starts off them messing about, throwing sponges around, and Mr. Smart had caught them, and he said they were helping with the Christmas fair, but they weren't really. They were just trying to get out of lessons and you know, just messing about. And like you say, there was the donkey. Harriet featured a couple of series later, the donkey, but Harriet turned up in the Christmas episode, Gonch and Hollo chasing it around the school. But also in that episode was the first time we ever seen Imelda Davis. Who,
really?
Yeah.
Was that her intro?
The Christmas episode was her intro. Yeah.
There was 3 or 4 of them, wasn't there? Them girls.
Yeah, there was the Terrorhawks, they were known as.
Terrorhawks. There was 4 of them, weren't there?
Yeah, Imelda, Georgina, Helen, and Sharon, I think, was the one who wasn't in it as much.
Yeah.
And like
Terrorhawks tried to terrorize Hollo.
Yeah. She did. He made his life a bit of a misery.
He dyed his hair pink.
Yeah, in that episode, in the Christmas episode, they're throwing sponges around. One of them hits Imelda, So they spend the rest of the episode trying to avoid her, but also trying to chase the donkey as well. And the donkey ended up in like a nativity scene. And the cast actually broke the fourth wall by wishing everybody a happy Christmas.
Oh, I remember we all had together, didn't we?
Yeah.
And a happy new year.
And you had to say that bit. And a happy new year. No one else says that bit.
Was I wearing a Christmas jumper as
well? You were wearing a Christmas jumper.
Oh, brilliant.
So then we move on to Series 9, which was your second year. And I have to say, one of the greatest characters ever joined Grange Hill that year is Ziggy Greaves. I have to say, it's Ziggy Greaves. Yeah. And I have to say that being a scouser. Ziggy Greaves joined. And none of the lads seemed to like him at first. They were all giving him a hard time because of his accent. I can't think why, to be honest. Like, it's the best accent I've ever heard, to be honest. But although, I don't even, Hollo was press ganged into joining the swimming team by Mr. Baxter. Although we never actually saw you swimming. We would just talk about it. Now, this was the year that there was a bit with, it was quite shocking at the time, the fiberglass. Don't even remember that. Imelda attacked Ziggy.
Hold on.
And a younger kid with fiberglass. But she gave it to Hollo and the lads as well, so that if she did attack anyone, they would all be under suspicion. But she made sure that she got Ziggy with it. And it was quite shocking at the time, like seeing it happen. And then, but Ziggy went up in the lads' estimations, and especially Hollo's, when he didn't actually tell anyone that Imelda had done it. Like, no one likes a grass, do they? You know what I mean? So that was what it was. Now, this is possibly, you've mentioned this already, but this was possibly the most famous money-making scheme of Gonch and Hollo, and everyone talks about this on social media. I've seen Matt Lucas make references to this on social media. It started off with them just buying a load of sandwiches and selling them in the school, which then led to the toast bar, like you said.
Yeah, I was not. I thought to myself, I remember something about this silver toaster making toast in the playground at lunchtime.
Yeah,
selling the toast.
Yeah. So they started off with sandwiches, and then they were buying them and selling them, and then they tried making their own in Gonch's house, but Gonch's mum came and kicked them out, said they couldn't do that. So then again, they tried to find the toaster in a skip, but couldn't find one. But they did find a load of copper piping, which they got £15 for, and then went and bought a toaster.
Right.
And they sold it for the grand price of 10p a slice. They were selling their toast for, and it was so popular that Trevor and Imelda both tried to get their own cut of it. But luckily, their customers wouldn't let them get a cut and made sure that they were well protected. But there's a scene where they're selling toast and there was an earwig buttered in to the toast.
Lovely.
And Gonch just brushed the earwig out of it and then covered it with jam. So Jane Bishop smothered the toast with the jam into Hollo's hand.
It does ring so many bells. I feel terrible now. Like, I'm conversing with you about. I feel like you don't go and watch your own stuff.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know, I used to come running home from primary school to watch it when I was watching like. And when you're in it, you don't really want to. You know.
Well, you know what happens, don't you? So
you just don't watch it. I don't know if it is that or what, or if it's a bit cringeable, or if it's a bit too odd.
Yeah.
You know, be able to see like sitting in your living room watching yourself. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah. But also that toast bar, Patsy Palmer was a regular customer to the toast bar.
Yeah. Ricky?
Yeah, Bianca, yeah.
Yeah, she was great, wasn't she?
Yes, because she was in Grange Hill so much as like a supporting artist, and every now and again she would have lines and stuff like that. Like
I remember Patsy. Did she go to Anne? I'm sure she did. Sid Owen and Patsy.
Right.
Yeah, Patsy Palmer. I swear that they were at Anna's. I might have even been in the same class as them. At points. Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. We didn't really know her that well, or like mate or anything. But fond memories still somehow from classes and that.
Brilliant. And even though Imelda had been told by the customers to leave Gonch and Hollo alone, she still wasn't happy. She was after that money, and she was determined to get Gonch and or get the money from them somehow. But there's a scene where Georgina, one of the girls, nicked Hollo's pen, threw it down the stairs, and told him he dropped it. So he went back and got it, leaving Gonch on his own. And Gonch got battered by the girls, to be honest. He got done over. And they nicked the money and they nicked his trousers at the same time as well. Like, so Hollo said, well, we need to stop doing the toast. But Gonch said he just needs to take a break. And in the meantime, Mr. Griffiths found the toaster and everything because he just kept it all in a desk. And they had to suspend the toast bar. And I don't think the toast bar was ever seen again, if I'm completely honest.
Sounds like a shame.
Now, there was a bit where Ziggy was, for some reason, everyone was doing like a letter writing project, and Ziggy wrote to the Duke of Edinburgh.
Right.
And he did get a reply, but Gonch got hold of the letter first, and Gonch and Hollo typed up a fake reply saying that the Duke of Edinburgh was going to come to the school, and they wanted the Duke of Edinburgh wanted Ziggy to collect as much chalk as he possibly could for some sort of money, like fundraising scheme. But they eventually got caught. It came out that the letter was a fake because Hollo had spelt Edinburgh wrong. And they were saying there's no way the Duke of Edinburgh would have done that. But Ziggy was invited to a gala performance at the Royal Albert Hall for his all the endeavours that he'd gone to. And there was a big thing on, because this was round about the time of Just Say No. So, but as well as just the drugs thing going on, there was also like they were going about cigarettes as well. There was a thing on smoking and a smoking ban, and they were making the school a smoke-free zone. And Mr. Griffiths, they caught Mr. Griffiths smoking his pipe in his office. Because Hollo and Gonch, don't remember this, they were the smoking patrol and they had badges on their sleeves at their blazers as the smoking patrol. And I just remember thinking, if any kid had gone round our school with smoking patrol badges on, he would have got battered. You know what I mean? Because there was that many kids. But they caught Mr. Griffith smoking and threw his pipe in the bin.
That would be the vape police, wouldn't it? Now?
Yeah, it would be.
You go around trying to take people's vapes off them at lunchtime. Yeah. You are going to get your head kicked in, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. There was also the speaker wall with Danny Kendall.
Kendall, I was going to mention Danny Kendall to you before. You know, you were saying about the toast in the playground. I remember where we filmed that. Sure, it's part of the back of the studio somewhere anyway. Yeah. I remember him coming along, walking into a scene. Danny Kendall, quite short. I don't know if I remember the storyline about him as well. I'm sure he was a lot older than any of us. But yeah, I remember Danny Kendall. I remember it being a big story. But for some reason, he sticks out vividly in my mind's eye. Yeah, from doing that work in the school playground.
And I think this might be where you were talking about the ladder. This might have been where you were, because people were up on ladders painting this wall, painting a mural.
Right.
On the wall. And
right.
Because Danny commandeered Hollo and Gonch into helping out with it. You know, it was a wall where they could write things on. But there was a comment. There was a comment about Zammo chasing the dragon, because it was when it was all coming out there, and all the lads were under suspicion, and the speaking wall was whitewashed over. And I'm going to talk about the fun one. I don't know if you remember the fun one.
The fun run.
There was a big fun run, and I forget which. Someone's told me which. It was on an athletics track. Someone's told me where it was. Gonch and Hollo went dressed as Laurel and Hardy. So that one.
This is like I must know where I was when that happened.
But they ran again.
I'm talking about someone else. I don't. I've got no. I'm going to have to find that and watch it now, because I've got.
It's on ITVX. Or well, I think the first 23 or 25 series are on ITVX.
Are they really?
Yeah. Oh, but only on the premium one. So you'll have to do that one. But yeah, so Hollo and Gonch being Hollo and Gonch ran a book on the fun run, but who wouldn't get round? So Ronnie Birtles bet Gonch that he wouldn't get round, and he took the bet 10p at 1,000 to 1. But Hollo realised they'd have to give it £100 if he didn't get round. But he did eventually get round, because he was pushed round it in a bath on wheels by Hollo, like something out of Last of the Summer Wine.
It does.
No,
It's not more like an interview with
yeah.
you. This is sort of like me coming on for you to remind me.
I'm like,
To
I'm like, I'm like
remind
Pete.
me.
I'm like Peter Kay. Do you remember this? Do you remember that?
Got no idea about that.
So, can I ask you though? I've just mentioned Just Say No because 1986 was the year of Just Say No, and I've watched a couple of the videos.
You can ask.
I've
You
watched the
can ask
official video, and I've watched the recording video, and I can't see
me.
Bradley Sheppard or Hollo Holloway anywhere in
No,
any of them.
no,
Can I ask you why?
you can.
Will you tell me why?
Good. To be there is a reason, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure of it right now,
Right. Okay.
but I do remember that I wasn't in the video, and I remember thinking later on, thank God for that.
Right. Okay.
Thank God I wasn't in that. But unfortunately, I have got a horrific memory of the album and us going to sing and being given a line. And it's the most cringeable thing. I'm holding my face at the moment, like, oh my God, listening to me now. Because obviously I must have been so young. I don't think my balls had dropped.
Right. Okay.
Oh, I think that I was so high pitched and squealy. And I've got this awful memory of the audition and me really feeling like I was going to give it large with Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer.
Right.
Right. I remember having to sing that and thinking I was going to do really well. But it just sounds like a mouse is being squeezed really hard.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like strangling a mouse. But yeah, actually, I am on the album. I'm not in the video. I
Right.
do remember it. It was a Whitney Houston tune. Um, I'm sure it's I Believe the Children Are the Future.
Greatest love of all.
Yeah, the greatest love of all. That's
Yeah.
it. That's what that is. Yeah, that's it. And I never found anyone to fulfill my needs.
Your line.
I think that was it. I think that was my line, innit? And it just stands out like a sore thumb
Right.
because I'm the youngest,
Yeah.
there, literally squealing it like a pig right the way through. I
Someone actually gave me that album a couple of months ago, so I'm going to have to listen to that now just for that bit, to be honest.
yeah, the squealing pig is me. Yeah, never found anyone to fulfill my need. Yeah,
Brilliant.
that's the reason. I don't know if I was on holiday. I'm not too sure if I'd gone away with family or something had gone
Right.
on. But yeah, there was definitely a reason why I didn't do the video because
Right.
I ain't, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we'll move on then. Series 10 went on air at 87. You were in third year, and this turned out to be your last series
Right.
on Grange Hill. And at the start of it, the big thing was Gonch wasn't there for the start of it. And the storyline was that he'd gone with his
Oh,
dad,
right.
got to Bahrain.
Oh, rain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
But can you remember why he wasn't there?
No,
Right. Okay. Because I've
no.
heard,
Well, I don't know the personal reasons
I've,
behind it.
I've heard that he was doing exams, but
Well, there was a lot of that because he may well have been
right.
be- because after this series, because he was a year or so ahead of me,
Uh-huh.
don't forget, and he might have been at the opposite end of the year to me,
Right. Okay. I get you.
wise or whatever. So that could there's an element of truth to that because I would imagine that he would have been doing his GCS. Well, not were they O levels then or GCSEs? I don't know.
GCSEs by then, yeah.
Doing
Or that might have been the first or second year of them, yeah.
yeah.
So your first scene in that one was you mentioned it earlier on. Imelda had a hit list and she went after Vince Savage. But Hollo stepped in, telling him to leave it alone, and then she sprayed the red dye
That's it.
in Hollo's hair. And was it actually what was actually sprayed into it? Was it actually dye that was sprayed in, or
I think I quite enjoyed having my hair dyed. It didn't really turn out bright pink or like they said it would though. But yeah, because my hair went from there's two different pictures that I got to sort of hand out or signed by the BBC, whoever the powers would be given these things. And one of them is the one that you got earlier. You said your friend was drawing from.
Yeah.
And there's a later one. There's one later. I think they might have even changed the badge and the colour on the ties.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
entirely sure. But I remember in that one, I've got this weird sort of 80s spiked
Yeah.
hairstyle. Yeah, and that was because I remember the girls dyeing my hair, like spraying the stuff in it. But I actually did have to go into wardrobe to see the girls in there. They were lovely in wardrobe, and they dyed me hair. Yeah,
Right.
dyed me hair for that. I think I got some spray in it. I think I quite enjoyed that, if I remember right. I thought a bit punk-esque, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Time. Yeah,
It is a proper 80s lads haircut, like the spiky and all that. Like, it was,
yeah, and dyed red.
yeah. I mean, that was that was the year. I mean, Imelda went completely off the rails that year, and she was like, she went after Hollo and Vince a few times. And Hollo and Vince had teamed up with Gunch not being there, and Hollo told Vince that Gunch would sort Imelda out when he got back. Because I never thought of Gunch as being like a bit of a hard knock, but when I've watched him back as an adult, I think because he's so much taller than everyone. He can be quite dominating and domineering, and he does come
Yeah,
across like that every now and again.
yeah. Both him and Gonch and Vince were tall.
And Trevor Cleaver, John Drummond, they were all massive, weren't they?
John Drummond. He was so funny. I remember. I remember John. He was
Yeah,
funny.
brilliant. Now, you mentioned this earlier on. Vince had found a secret room under the stairs, and he made a bit of a den in it, and he invited Hollo in, and there was a bit where they were painting it with bright red paint,
Right.
and Hollo spilt some of it over his trainers.
Yeah, I remember this.
So can you remember what Hollo did then to stop his trainers looking
No,
stupid?
I only remember it as you're telling me.
He painted the whole trainers red. He painted them all completely red so it wouldn't look like he'd spilled red paint
Brilliant idea.
on. And the school had a bit of a fundraising drive, asking people to bring in glass bottles, because we talked about the deposits earlier on, and they were going to sell them to a glass dealer for recycling. And Hollo and Vince decided that they should collect the bottles themselves. So money making even without Gunch. It's a bit of a money making scheme. But they were like stealing them from the school and tried to steal them from milkmen and all sorts. But then they found out that Danny Kendall was ill, and the school were going to have a fundraising drive for him.
Yeah, right.
And this is where Hollo said that they should give their bottle money to the fund, and the rest of the school should as well, rather than give it to the school fund. They were going to give it to Danny Kendall. Now,
storyline that he was terminally ill or something.
he had like brain problems, and he did eventually die like a series or two.
But that was his character, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because Jonathan Lambert, who played Danny's been on here.
Oh, has he?
He's a good lad, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Fine to me. And there was a thing that year the school was going to have a radio station, as every school does. I don't know, but anyway, the school were having a radio station.
That's it.
And Hollo was talking to Callie and Ronnie about the radio station, and the girls wanted to get involved with it, but Hollo didn't want them to get involved. Callie asks Hollo, she says, "Don't you like girls?" And he says, and I'm really conscious of saying this while you sat next to your partner, in case you get a bit.
About things that you've been saying, but keeping very conscious, just keeping very, very quiet.
She says, "Don't you like girls?" And he goes, "Well, they're all right in their place." And then Callie then told Hollo that Gunch had written to Ronnie, and he was coming back to school, and he then found out that Gunch and Ronnie were going out before Gunch had gone away, and he couldn't understand why Gunch hadn't told him. And when he did come back, Hollo obviously started spending time with him, and obviously Vince was getting his nose pushed out here, and poor old Vince. And then Hollo showed Gunch the den. Now, I'll come back to the den, because I want to talk about the Canal trip.
Collections of it. I've got an idea. I've got bunk beds in there. Sleeping on bunk beds.
Because the Canal trip, like, Grange Hill fans love those episodes.
Right.
Absolutely loved them. And I think it's because
things where the school goes away on holiday,
an
outing.
Because you're not in the school.
Yeah, we're not in the studio no more.
And
We're actually outside.
it's a different place, like, and obviously it's, you could, there's a lot more scope, isn't there, for the characters to do other things. Like, can you remember any other than bunk beds? Can you remember anything else about that?
I remember. What was it? A longboat, a narrowboat,
Yeah. Longboats,
on a
yeah. Oh,
canal.
narrow boats. Longboats were Vikings were on, weren't they? A narrow boat.
Right, a narrowboat. Yeah, no, I would imagine that I'm going to have my memory jogged there, but like you have done all the way through the what you've called an interview, but it's definitely what's gone on.
Now,
Me
from,
reminiscing.
from what I've been told, is you were actually staying in halls of residence, Coventry Way. From what other people have told me on other bits. I don't know if you remember the story of Tim Polly climbing up the outside of the building.
No.
Okay, fair enough. So there was a bit of needle between the Granger lads and the locals in the show, and it all came to a head when the locals rushed them, and Hollo and his mates all ran off, leaving Ziggy up a tree. But then they went back, and there was a bit of a scuffle broke out, and then the next night they all went to a disco, and all the local lads were there again, and all the girls went off dancing with them, and the lads weren't happy.
Right. Well, that sounds about right.
Okay. Now we will talk. You talked about the ghost earlier on. So basically, Gonch had now found out about the den, and then Trevor Cleaver found out about it, and Trevor wrecked it. He like went in and smashed it all up just because the way he did. And the lads then thought they had to get Cleaver back. So what they did was they sort of mentioned ghosts a little bit to Cleaver, and he said the school was haunted. And the first time Cleaver went in there was actually a ghost figure.
Right.
If you remember that, and you were actually under the figure. There was yourself, and then Gonch and Vince were in there. But Cleaver didn't want to go back in, right? So the lads were like saying, "We've got to get him back. We've got to get him back properly." So Cleaver said, "Well, I'll do it if you help me get Mr. Scott." I don't know if you remember Mr. Scott, Adam Bell. He didn't have any control over the class, basically. He had no control. So Trevor wants to get him back for something that he'd done to Trevor, and he got the class to hum. Do you not remember that one?
Oh.
So they were all humming, and Mr. Scott actually grabbed Cleaver up against the wall and went to hit him. But no,
Hold on a minute. No, I've got. Did he grab him by the sort of scruff?
grabs him by his neck, yeah,
By the scruff
pulls his arm
and
back.
put him up against. Yeah, I've got a memory of a glimpse of that. It's terrible, isn't it? I just don't know.
No, it's not. Look, mate, it was 40 years ago. Do you know what I mean? It's not a problem if you
Yeah,
don't.
I'm 51 now, Neil.
So then Trevor did go with Ziggy and Gonch to look for the ghost.
Right.
And they were in the den, and the bricks started coming out of the wall. And
Yes.
So the viewers know that you're behind that wall. Hollo's in that gap.
Yeah.
So was that a separate set built, or was it actually what we think it was? Was it actually a room under the stairs?
I remember something actually being underneath the stairs. I do. I think I remember the stairs.
Right.
I'm trying to remember now if it was the same stairs that went out of the sort of studio that we was in at the time, like a fire escape type stairs.
Right, I get you.
I do remember there being a fake wall. I remember putting up partitions and building this.
Yeah.
So I think that the cubbyhole itself had to be built because of the way that they were filming it.
Right, I get you.
Because you had to be filming it from outside and then from looking into outside. So it must have been a part of the set that they built near or underneath the stairs.
I get you.
To be able to do it. And I remember being in different places. So yeah, I wouldn't imagine that was really a place that existed.
Right.
Upstairs. I think that was a set that they had to build to specifically do that, to get all the angles and the that we had to be filmed that in from both sides.
I get you.
Remember, yeah, that's about as much as I got on that.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. And then, so as I say, the bricks started coming out, and Trevor's screaming at Ziggy to get away. And then the next thing, arms come out of the wall and grab hold of Ziggy. Would that have actually been you?
I have a vague recollection.
There's all like green lights. There's all green lights and all sorts of smoke. And
Yeah,
and all stuff like that.
yeah. It's like a Halloween sort of party type of
Yeah,
going on. Yeah, the only thing missing there was a bit of dry smoke. Was it dry smoke? Was it
yeah,
dry?
yeah. So there is like dry ice and
We
smoking.
really went to town and tried to make this as spooky as possible. So I'm surprised it's not like a Halloween special or something.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you whether that was me or not. I've got a tendency if I start picturing something in my mind and I sort of like you're telling me that, I believe I was there
right, okay.
doing it, but it may well not have been, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get that
I
completely.
don't know really, mate.
Okay, and then that series ended with a cricket match.
Right.
Don't know if you remember that, but you weren't actually involved in that. So obviously, Hollo and Gonch would have been running a book on the cricket match. Obviously, they would have been running a book on who was going to win, and it wound me up when I watched this the other day as an adult because the match ended up as a draw. So everyone claimed that they'd all won because nobody had lost, and I just thought that I'm not sure you could claim that with a real bookie. To be honest, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they let you cash out on that one. And it also came out. I love this one that Orlo and Gonch have been running a book on Roland's weight loss, and they'd been like sneaking like chocolate bars into his bags and stuff like that. And it turns out they'd lost money on that one as well. And that was the end of Series 10, and that was the end of your time on Grange Hill. We never saw Orlo again, and I don't think he was ever mentioned again, to be honest.
No, this is something that I've been told, and I've spoken to people about it, and apparently I just done a Houdini.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know how many other members of the cast or characters. Usually people got written out. I remember because of John maybe doing his GCSEs, he got written out to say he's gone to Bahrain with his mum or something on holiday. Because he was doing that. And I now know that that's about the right time because that was coming up, that would have been when I started to do my GCSEs.
right.
So I would have said to the BBC,
Yeah,
I need to go and do some exams, you know.
right.
And I wasn't very good at homework or doing things. My mum was getting me a tutor and stuff like that, you
Oh,
know.
I get you. Yeah,
So I disappeared because I was doing GCSEs. But why they didn't write me out, I couldn't tell you. So I think what happened is there's been a conversation with Anna, a conversation with my mum, a conversation with the BBC. I remember it being quite a thing at the time and but
uh-huh.
emotionally traumatic for me in making really grown-up decisions.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I kind of knew that for one reason or another, that I won't go into great detail about, but it was GCSE time.
right.
Oh, I'm going to go and see if I can do some exams.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was left that, well, just let us know if you're coming back.
Right.
We,
Okay.
you would come back. You know, they wanted
Yeah.
me. And I think there was a little bit of toing and froing. I think I even remember because my brother went to Anna's as well.
Right.
And he was actually in Grange Hill.
All right. Oh, he's in the credits, isn't he? He's in the
Yeah,
opening scene. See, I
yeah.
know that. There you go.
When they changed it from the sausage on the fork and the comic and
Yeah.
it went improvised, and it was
Yeah.
like the new Grange Hill era, you know,
Yeah.
and technology had advanced, didn't it? You
Yeah.
know, and yeah. So my brother's actually in the opening credits. He was in Grange Hill quite a bit, but he didn't want to take on a leading,
Right. Okay.
and I kind of remember at the time there was like, oh, whether he's going to come in as my brother,
Uh-huh.
actual brother,
Yeah.
or take over, come in as
Right.
I wasn't sure what was going on at that point, but I do remember them leaving it open.
Uh-huh.
They left it open,
And
but I never went back.
yeah, did you not fancy it? No.
No,
Right.
no.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, because as you say, normally there was some sort of exit story. To be honest, most people when they just disappeared, we mentioned that they quite a few times this happened. They'd gone to Milton Keynes was normally the storyline for that guy.
Okay, they're still going around a roundabout somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so although you left the show in 1987, or like Hollo left the show in 87, because obviously you'd done the filming the year before. And you must have been aware of the fact that in 1987, you didn't fully leave the world of Grange Hill. behind, because there was a computer game made, and it's bananas. The computer game follows the exploits of Gonch and Hollo. Were you aware of this at the time?
Absolutely not. I had no idea. I found out many years later. I hadn't a clue. I think it was a friend of mine from church had mentioned it.
Right.
Said they could buy a game on the ZX Spectrum,
Yeah.
Grange Hill, and it had our faces plastered on it. So I had no idea really, or no recollection of it now.
Right. Right. I get you. So the premise of the game is that Gonch's Walkman had been confiscated, which was a storyline that happened, in Grange Hill. But his Walkman was confiscated. It was in the school staff room, and Gonch wants to get it back. So his parents, my parents will kill me, basically. So then this game sort of follows the exploits in and around the school, and I remember playing it, and it was one of the hardest games to play because you could die for falling over a paving slab, like a crooked paving slab. If you walked into it, that was it, game over. But not only that, it also had some other really bleak, and it's probably one of the most bleakest kids computer games ever, because obviously one of the biggest storylines ever was Just Say No. Right. And there was a bit where if you got talking to this guy, it turns out he was a drug dealer, and soon he will die, and now you are too, was basically the story. And that was another ending.
Is this in the game?
This is in the game. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, I'll have to ask you this: how did you feel when you found out all those years later that you had been immortalized in this computer game?
You can't believe it, can you? It's just what? I was talking to people about it in the Battle Cruiser not long ago, saying a friend of mine, Matt, and I was saying there's been a computer game made about us. Yeah. We played this. I think it was Commodore 64, the Amstrad stuff, and ZX Spectrum and whatever else, and which is really dated anyway.
Yeah.
Give me information about how bleak it was. That drug dealing within it. And I'm just like, I've got no clue. I don't remember being talked to about it. I don't remember it coming up. I've got no idea. But I do know that it was put out there. And I was just like shocked when a friend of mine said, you can buy a game with you in it. And I was just like, I thought to myself, did I really have a computer game made about us? I mean, were we the only characters that ever had a computer game made about the series? That was what
I think you would have been. Yeah. Yes, there was Hollo, Gonch, and Mr. Griffiths all feature in the game. I don't think any other characters do. And the game itself, it's got music, but it's not the Grange Hill music,
right?
Anything like that. The link to Grange Hill is quite minimal, if I'm completely honest. I mean, it could have been.
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, who's gone ahead and done this?
I mean, at that time in the 80s, obviously home computing was like a massive boom, wasn't it? As you said, with the computers you just mentioned. And games were getting churned out all the time, and you could buy really cheap computer games then as well. And obviously Grange Hill, the people at Grange Hill have obviously cashed in on, the success, because it was, obviously Grange Hill was massive at the time.
I wonder how they got away with it if they hadn't mentioned it to the BBC. They've got for it, right? Don't know. I remember Frankie Goes to Hollywood and stuff like that on the ZX Spectrum, but I don't remember ever playing my own game.
Brilliant. Well, listen, it's out there, and I'm sure in the technology these days, you can probably play it somewhere. There is a couple of walkthroughs of it on YouTube, and you can sort of watch. And I think one of them is like 20 minutes long. I don't whether that was how long the game took to play. I don't know, but yeah.
When Mrs. found it, she showed me a snippet on YouTube, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is my character name." It's
brilliant.
I didn't have a clue at the time.
Brilliant. So you went to do your exams, but you were also in something called Jana, Where Are You?
That's right. I remember that.
Where you played a homeless kid, or a kid that run away.
Or something. I stayed in for that. I think it was a Crips chat. That was. I don't know if that was a popular TV series or not. Really,
It was called. scene. I think it was like a school
Right.
thing. I think.
Yeah. Wasn't there Marmalade Atkins in that? I don't remember his character. What was her name? There was a famous girl, I think, who was doing really well on the scene. She must have played Jana. Must have been Jana
Yeah,
herself.
I think that's what it was because I had to look at that the other day. To be honest, I watched Jana, Where Are You a few years back, and I can't remember the girl's name, but I'll find it for you now.
I remember filming that. I remember we was at this really beautiful ancient like type stairs and wrought islands, gates outside, wrought iron railings and steps going up. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
it was a crypt. I'm pretty sure that was filmed in a crypt or a
Right.
church or something like that.
So,
Where
so the girl that played Jana was called Pippa Hinchley, but as you said there, Charlotte Coleman, who was Marmalade Atkins,
was she?
was also in it.
I got
Yeah,
that right.
yeah, yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
so when I worked with her, then I must have remembered her as Marmalade Atkins.
yeah. No, I mean,
That's what my memory's done. That's what my
I think I've said this a few times on here because a few people worked with Charlotte Coleman, and I just think Charlotte Coleman was brilliant in everything that she was in. Like, and it's
She done incredibly well, didn't she?
yeah, it's a pity that she's no longer with us. Like yeah, unfortunately, because she ended up in four weddings and all sorts.
Right.
She was in loads, like, but yeah. So and then so as I've said to you, IMDb's my main source, and there's nothing else for you acting wise other than it wasn't acting. It was like an appearance on Saturday Superstore
Oh yeah, that went well.
at the time. Like
Yeah,
that
that
way, hang on, that way you can't say that went well and then leave it there.
didn't I have a brand new grey leather jacket on?
Right.
What was it at the time? I know that there was Noel Edmonds and Mike Reed, wasn't it? But
Mike Reed was Saturday Superstore. Mike Reed
Mike,
and
Mike
Sarah
Reed
Green.
did that, yeah. And there was a few people coming on that day, if I remember rightly, standing in the wings with them. But I think also I was one of the main. I think I was one of the main guests. It's incredible when you look back, you don't understand or comprehend how popular
Yeah,
the TV series was and what was really going on in my world. You
yeah,
know, I was just a kid from a council house. You know what I mean? Who went to an acting school after school. If you know what I mean, an acting
yeah,
club after school. Um, yeah, and doing Saturday Superstore and going on there as a guest.
yeah.
Again, it's just like what? I think it was around Christmas time as well.
Right.
I think it was around Christmas time. I swear that my mum bought me that leather jacket, that grey leather jacket. I remember being in the wings, and I remember some of the other guests that was on there. A very, very famous sort of singer, shall we say?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a to do with.
Right.
Wasn't yeah, it wasn't particularly pleasant. Uh,
Oh, right.
yeah, one of these people that's got like a rod shoved somewhere they shouldn't have had it, you know.
Oh, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah. So and me being so young, probably I think I was being accused of being very, very unprofessional, put it that way.
Oh, right. Okay. I'm just looking at who was on there. So I won't tell you the name of the band. People will have to look that one up for themselves. Like, but yeah. But so then, so as I say, there's nothing else there on IMDb
Right,
for
okay.
you.
Well,
So
that must have been it.
yeah. So did you just decide it's not for me anymore? Then?
Without a shadow of a doubt. I don't think it was. Now I don't think it was. It was the acting that was too
Right.
much
I get
for
you.
me. All right, it wasn't the acting that was the problem.
Right. I
Because I
get
love
you.
acting, and do you know what? Hand on my heart, I can safely say I'd still be doing it. I'd still do it.
Yeah.
And I think there's been occasions people always say to me, "Why have you never gone back into it?" Because my natural progression might have been to go along with Patsy and Sid and
Yeah.
Michelle Gale and end
Yeah.
up going into EastEnders or whatever like Mark
Uh-huh.
Todd. Um, and you never know, and it's all hindsight.
Uh-huh.
But there's a reason why we go down different forks in the road in life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But if I I think I couldn't go back because of I had no idea that I was as famous as I was.
Yeah.
I still don't comprehend it correctly. I
Yeah.
still haven't got really the right, I mean, it went abroad apparently, you
Yeah.
know, and did I do 3 series? Did I just do
Three
3 series?
series. Yeah.
And others did 4, 5, 6, didn't
Yeah.
they? And many more years and like going into the record books with it all.
Yeah.
And I went to do my GCSEs and didn't want to go back. And it was simply because in Islington, I'm surrounded by estates and, it being a face,
Yeah.
like that I don't think children of my age or a little bit older or around my way could quite comprehend
Yeah.
that, that the one that they're coming home to watch is actually in his school uniform walking down the road,
Yeah.
coming home. And unfortunately, people just didn't understand it,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'd say this, that it put you on a pedestal, and then that pedestal is just whipped out from underneath your
I
feet.
get you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, I can't continue with this. But it was a silly move, but I had to do it. I wanted to continue with my art. I was quite creative. I
Hmm.
have always copy drawings from comics and things like that. I got my GCSEs. I actually did really well through gritted tree from fights with my mum to get me tutors and stuff like that. Um,
Brilliant. Yeah.
but I ran away, and what was happening, I couldn't continue anymore. I just wanted it to stop.
I
But
get you.
unfortunately for me, it didn't because I had that baby face.
Hmm.
And that baby face really sort of stayed with me right up until I was sort of like after university and stuff
Wow.
to into my sort of like, I think the last time I was recognized was when I was in my mid 20s.
Wow.
And someone actually stood there and looked at me and went, I know you, don't I? Yeah, you went to my school, didn't you?
Wow.
Because in their head, they're picturing
Yeah.
my school uniform. And then I just see the look on their face as they've obviously panned out and seen it on the TV, gone, oh
Yeah.
my God, you're that kid off Grange Hill, aren't you?
Wow.
You was in Grange Hill. And I was just like, yeah, that is incredible that this
Yeah.
person of mine, I think I was working in Domino's Pizzas at the time,
All
making
right.
order. So yeah, I think that's where I was. And I was very, very surprised. It stayed with me. So even though I'd left the series,
Yeah.
what I was trying to get away from didn't disappear.
Right. I get you.
It stayed with me for a long while,
Yeah.
And yeah, I had to fight my way through it really. But I had a really nice time at Camberwell College of Art and Design after doing A levels at sixth form in Islington. I
Yeah.
met Camberwell College of Art and Design, so it was a little bit about my artwork, and I really enjoyed my art. So in some ways, it was great that I left and I did pursue that because I've got wonderful memories of being able to go to sixth form
Uh-huh.
and then go to college. And then I went on to university. And guess where I went to
I
university?
know where you went to university.
So I have got a soft spot for Liverpool,
Yeah.
because I did live there for 3 years.
Because I mentioned Ziggy Greaves earlier.
Yeah.
George told me that he was in a bar one night. He said, and this lad was just staring and staring at him, and he turned around and he went to say something to him, and it was Bradley Sheppard.
It was. Yeah, I had to say hello to him. And that's why I was looking at him because I was trying to work it out. I was thinking, I swear I know that geezer. I know. Because I'm good with faces. I'm never going to forget his face.
Yeah.
I think tragically, some of us had a bit of an hard time outside of it.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it was like a mirror image because that might not be true, but I think a lot of us experienced similar things,
I get you. Yeah. Yeah.
and so we've all got that in common.
Yeah.
I think we've all got that in common. And so when you do see someone you do get to meet, there's there's almost like this hidden camaraderie
Yeah.
there because
Yeah.
they're a part of it, you
Yeah.
know, so they know. You don't necessarily have to go into the detail of it, or what's gone on,
Hmm.
but you can assuredly know that that person understands,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and that I think with that comes like a compassion and a warmth almost between us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. Yeah.
kind of like what I've felt when I've met up with other members of the cast, but it's a lot different for me because these guys were a bit older.
Yeah.
And that they might not have had the same sort of experiences as me, being so young and so small, you know. But yeah, there is that lovely, that kind of like that compassion and warmth and understanding. I think a little bit of empathy, because there is that understanding that
Yeah.
you've been in that well, what do you got up and call it? A club. You're in that club.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I understand what he means.
Yeah.
You know, I understand what he means, but it's a bit strange for me because I never really had much contact with any really of the cast members on a level of friendship outside of, because of the
I
difference
get.
in my age.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think I was always knocking about, or probably kept myself to myself. I was
Uh-huh.
probably quite reserved, you know, and a
Yeah.
little bit shy. And it might take me a few years to come to come out of that. And I have done pretty much my best to
Yeah.
stay well out of the limelight,
Yeah.
you know, and just get on with my life and try and be a normal civilian,
Yeah.
you know, thereafter, and just enjoy things and get on with it. And yeah, that's kind of like what I've done. But I must say, the only reason that me and you and I are talking now is because of Erkan.
Yeah.
I'll give him a shout out because that's the reason why I'm on it, you know.
Yeah.
And if he says, Brad, will you do me a favor? You know,
Yeah.
I'm because of the way that he looked at, like, kind of looked after me, and how he
Uh-huh.
was with me when I first walked through them doors.
Yeah.
When I first got in there, because
Yeah.
like I say, on IMDb, there's not much on there. There's a couple of bits, but he must have understood more than anyone, you
Yeah.
know, what it must be like. And I must have been like a little boy, bunny rabbits in the head, like, this is just like, wow, what
Yeah.
going on here? You know, what can I expect? I don't
Yeah.
know how I must have been feeling, like anxious or whatever. But he kind of he was like my sort of cushion, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Catch me when I fall, you know, just this
Yeah.
warmth, just to sort of like welcome me in and say, look, it's going to be all right, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
all right, it's okay, you know,
Yeah.
we've moved through this. Don't worry about too much. And who better? Who
Yeah.
better to understand, you
Yeah.
know, what it
He's
is.
a
So
he's a top bloke.
you can't really want to meet a better, you know, or
No,
not,
you're right. You're right.
you know, a nicer guy in all walks and realms of life. And you know, I'm so pleased now that when I talk to people, I can say, you wouldn't believe who rung me up the other day.
Yeah.
I'm on my way home in a van from a job. I've got two
Yeah.
friends in the van. Yeah, Erkan rang me up. And I think to myself, you know, I feel quite proud that I can say to people, Erkan's my mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's really quite cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, but
Definitely.
sort of like the only one I stayed in touch with, mate, really.
Right. Yeah.
And I've told you the reasons why.
Hmm.
No, a bit to, I think the age gap was too fast, or what was
Yeah.
going.
So, can I ask, what do you do now?
I'm a structured data cabling engineer.
No, all right. Okay.
New engineer, yeah.
Fair enough.
Right.
Brilliant.
Design and install data networks.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So we are coming towards the end now, Bradley. And I've got a few questions. They're the same few questions I always ask at the end of every interview, and they're all related to Grange Hill. But don't
Right.
worry, it's not a quiz. It's not a quiz, so don't worry about that. It's not a test or anything like that. Okay. So recently, over the last couple of years, there's been talk of the idea of a Grange Hill movie in the works. Phil Redmond is writing it. What do you think of the idea of a Grange Hill movie?
I don't think there's anyone better to write it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I've seen what he's done with most of his series, and it seems to have that Midas touch, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and I think he's in the right place with regards to what he's trying to bring into the forefront of, you know, um, what subjects he wants to addressed
Yeah.
through certain mediums,
Yeah.
and in the right way. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, maybe sitting on the fence a bit there. Uh, what do I think about him? Well, writing it,
Just
obviously. Who else could?
yeah.
I know. Who else could? I know he'd probably have a team of people helping
Yeah.
him, you know. But the idea of it being made into a movie, wow, that'd be very strange, I
Yeah.
think. I don't think they could do it with any of us, could they? It'd
Well,
have to be, it'd have to be all new characters, wouldn't it? But then people wouldn't know them, would they? I mean,
no.
how would you get around it? But then how could you film a movie now of all us? Oh,
Well, that's what I was going to say. Because if you were asked, would we see a return of Hollo?
if they was all doing it,
Yeah.
if they were all doing it, and there was like I suppose, a fan base out there that really would love to see that.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like the only reason why I do things like this, or I turned up for Erkins doing Leicester Square, is because I felt like I owe this to people, because without anybody out there being fond of it,
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't have got through life the way that I have.
Yeah.
You know, without those people.
Uh-huh.
You know, I was one.
Yeah.
You know, so I know. And once you're in it and you're looking at it from the outside, and you're getting a little bit older and longer in the tooth, you think, oh, thank God for fans. You know,
Yeah.
people that are interested in this and
Yeah.
a fondness towards it, and understand it a bit, because you know that's those are the people that you like to be able to meet on the street and talk to.
Yeah.
You know, because they're gonna greet you graciously, should I say? You
Yeah.
know, you might be able to sort of like sit down, have a drink, have a chin wag, and crack on, and not be in any fear. You
Yeah.
know, do you understand what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So without those people, then no. So I think in answer to your question, I'm waffling on. If there was a movie and Phil wrote it, and they were going to film it, and like people were doing it, why wouldn't I? I don't know. Now I think, sod it.
Brilliant.
Sod it. I'll have a go. I'll have a
Yes.
go. If the option come up and everyone else was having a go, I think to myself, why not?
And we'd have to see, like, Gonch and Hollo, they must be, I don't know, CEOs or something now. They must have done. Or Gonch would be, and he'd have Hollo doing all the donkey work for
No, someone told me that apparently we're Del Boy and Rodney.
Yeah, right.
I don't know who I was talking to about that, but they said it was the original Del Boy and Rodney.
Oh, brilliant. Love that. Okay. So you said you were a fan of Grange Hill when you were a kid. So other than Hollo Holloway, who was your favourite character?
Well, I don't think I would ever say my own.
Right, okay.
I would say my own. For some reason, what's springing to my mind is Danny Kendall.
Right, yeah,
For some reason, I've got this real fondness for him. Maybe
yeah,
Harry was with me when I did those scenes with him,
yeah,
and obviously the script was, and still a part of me when we were talking about it, I was thinking, did he actually pass away from that really terrible illness or
yeah.
whatever?
That Danny Kendall did, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So there is that, and I remember. I think maybe that was it, really. I'd have to say, Danny, he springs to
yeah,
mind, but I think I've got to go with my sidekick, and
yeah.
I'll go with John, and John Holmes, Gonch. I've got to go with
and
Gonch.
and if you couldn't have played Hollow, is there another character you would have liked to have played? Then?
Um, no, I think
No,
I don't. No, I couldn't. No, I can't. I couldn't say. You can't, can you? Because you've
yeah,
played.
I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah,
You've taken yourself to the role. The role's come to you. You become a part of it. You've had your own little identity crisis for it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I can't see beyond me being Hollow in it. In
Right.
it. To
Okay.
try and play someone else now would be a bit much.
Yeah. Okay. And so the final question then, Bradley, is why do you think there's still such affection for Grange Hill?
Like I've mentioned before about Phil Redmond's and the script writers'
Yeah.
ability, producers, to bring these subjects to the forefront of people's living rooms.
Uh-huh.
Taboo subjects, maybe controversial subjects.
Yeah.
Your dresses, what with Terry Sue Pat, Benny, with Lee McDonald Zamo, with some of the girls, uh, self-harming,
Yeah.
pregnancy young,
Yeah.
racism, bullying, for a start, massive.
Yeah.
You take your hat off to someone like that who can sort of like bring these things up into people's living rooms, and the elephant in the room is on your television
Yeah.
in that sense. So I think that people out there, when they relate, like comedy and laughter is just relative pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so storylines that you see in these things that are going on, if there's any element or area that you can connect to, that you have a similarity with,
Yeah.
I think that's where that fondness comes from.
Yeah.
Because if you've been through something similar, or you've come home, or you're not in a very nice situation, with me, and I still do this. If I want to go somewhere, you might stick on Only Fools and Horses to cheer you up.
Yeah. I know you. Yeah.
Or you might want to watch a movie one night just because work's been a bit much, whatever's going on, this, that, and the other. But you can come home, you could come home from school and you couldn't wait for it, could you?
Yeah.
Home from school, sit down, have your dinner maybe while you're watching Grange Hill, or maybe you didn't want to have your dinner while you were watching.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wanted to concentrate on it that much. So because you're drawn into the characters.
Yeah.
And I think that's because you relate to them.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the fondness comes from. And it was up and down, wasn't it? There was serious stuff going
Yeah.
on, but there was an element of jovialness about it all as
Yeah.
well. Cheap stuff about it,
Yeah.
And, well, I think they got the balance. Got the
Definitely.
right. And it's about kids, isn't it? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
growing up and
Yeah.
going to school. We've all done that.
Yeah.
We've all had teachers.
Yeah.
So I think that's must be where it comes from. I'm a bit of an amateur psychologist now. It sounds. No, I think that's where that fondness comes from, is where people have related to the characters and the storylines, and
Yeah.
that it was exciting, and you never know what was going to happen next, did you? With some
Yeah.
script writing was obviously very good. 30 years, wasn't it? It ran for.
30 years. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a long time,
Yeah.
It's a long time, and it has got a fondness, and yeah, I don't know what else to say to that really, other than that.
No,
The
that's
theory of relativity.
no, honestly, but Bradley, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great talking to you.
Relaxing me, and it been all right. I've been a bit angst about it, as you know. I don't pop my head up. I don't, I'm not one to, put my head up.
No,
Yeah.
honestly, it has been great talking to you and listening to your experiences, the ones you could remember. It's been great hearing from you. And honestly, I don't think I've stopped smiling the whole time we've been on. So I really, really appreciate you coming on. It's been great. It really, really has been. And I hope you've enjoyed it.
Well, I hope everybody else likes listening to it, that wants to,
Yeah.
And we'll stay in touch, mate. All right.
Yeah, definitely. Well, honestly, thank you once again. And to anyone that's listening, I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Thanks. Bye bye.
Cheers, man.